What is going on? Flip Your Life Live 2019 attendees. Super excited to be with you for session 7. And I'm just testing my audio. And I have audio on my screen. Let me just mute this here, make sure I'm still going. All right, we are super excited to be here today. I just got back from the gym and can't wait to get talking about some branding today. Super excited to see everybody. The chat room's filling up right now. Just sent an email out, so we'll give everybody a couple minutes to get into the chat. Kind of a double header on the Flip Your Life member call and the Flip Your Life attendee call for some of you guys who were here yesterday and saw the massive catastrophe that was last night's Flip Your Life community member call. Right before the call, for those of you who were not there, I knocked over a grape drink, a dark, rich purple grape drink into the floor, and we have white carpet in our bedroom. And it literally happened seconds before the member call started. It was absolutely hysterical. Jennifer was apparently laughing at me the entire time because she said it was hilarious as well. But it was just carnage. The kids were running in and out of the room. Anna Jo came in, and Anna Jo likes to sleep in my t-shirts. She uses them like nightgowns, and she says, "I like to be close to Daddy when I'm asleep." So she'll come into my drawer and she'll get a t-shirt. So I looked back in the middle of the call after this disaster. We finally get the grape juice cleaned up. Jocelyn sits down. And I look back, and Anna's just like taking her clothes off, putting on a shirt, absolutely no modesty whatsoever. And I was like, "What are you doing? We're on camera. We're broadcasting live." And so it was total carnage. It was absolutely amazing last night in the Flip Your Life member call. My kids are here. They're outside playing in a little baby. We got our dogs a pool. So they're out in this little pool with our dogs playing and doing stuff like that. They're playing with some Legos out on the porch. So they may make more cameos. I don't know what's going to happen. We never can predict anything that's going on at Flip Lifestyle, world headquarters. But I wanted to start off with a little story about that, though. I have been asked multiple times when stuff like that happens on our calls. People, we've actually had some criticism. We have members that are like, "I can't believe you let your kids interrupt you. And why don't you lock your door? Or why don't you tell your kids to stay outside where they're supposed to be?" Like people have actually said that to us before. And I know, people get horrified when things like that happen. But, just to let you guys peek behind the curtain in our thought process, the reason we don't, shut our doors, lock our doors, keep our kids out, even during paid stuff, even during one-on-one stuff, we have an open door policy for our kids. As a history teacher, I've read a lot of great quotes by great leaders in the past. And, I'm kind of obsessed with historical figures. And a little known fact about Abraham Lincoln is that when he was president of the United States, he had an open door policy in the Oval Office for his children. The guards and the staff were never allowed to turn his children away from entering the Oval Office if they needed him. Right. And he was, he created balance, and he instructed them and told them, when it was appropriate, when it was not. But if they needed him, even his youngest children could come in and see him. And this was during like the Civil War. Right. This is during the most turbulent time in the history of the United States of America. And the president of the United States had an open door policy for his kids. And when we started doing this, even back when I was a coach, I had an open locker room policy for Isaac. Anna wasn't born yet until late in my coaching career for football. But it was even into Flip Lifestyle, when we started doing this podcast, when we started doing anything and we started working from home, we put that open door policy in for our kids too. Because if the president of the United States of America can leave his door open for his kids, then ain't none of us got a right to tell our kids to stay out. Now, we try to keep a balance, but that's one of the reasons why we're pretty open with that. And if you don't like it, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. That's all I got to say. Okay. All right, guys. So looks like we've got a bunch of people already logged in. So we're going to get started on today's attendee session. And today we're going to be continuing our discussion on building your platform. We've talked a lot about building your product. You got to have that. Talked about your avatar, your idea. We're starting to build out now things like websites and social media and stuff like that. But before you start really building that hard infrastructure, or if you've already started doing that, you need to take some time to think about your branding. That's an important part of your platform. Everybody gets this backwards. Most people start picking, whether they're going to podcast or blog before they even decide, what their identity is in their business. Okay. All right. So let me pull down here and hit do not disturb so I don't get any ding-a-lings on my MacBook Pro. Real quick before I start, everybody can hear me, right? Let me know. I can hear and see the video on my screen. So I'm assuming that everybody out there can hear me. Let me get one or two confirmations real quick when the delay catches up here that you can see and hear everything I'm saying. Once I get somebody tell me, yep, okay, got Jason says yes, Shay says yes, Crystal says yes, TC says yes. Okay, we're good. Cynthia says yes. All right. So I'm going to give you today 6 questions that you need to ask yourself about your brand before you do anything. And if you've already built your website, you're probably going to change it after today's session. Okay. But it's really important branding questions that are going to guide these. We asked ourselves these questions 5 years ago when we started Flip Lifestyle. And most of you know our website has only changed once in 5 years. Our colors have never changed. Our logo has never changed. And our logo is just a word. It's just 2 words, Flip Lifestyle, right? So everything I'm about to say to you, we did this and we've held true to our word. This is going to be the basis of like the core values in your company, what you're doing online, almost all your decisions in your branding. If you do this right, can be filtered through it in the beginning. You don't have to worry about it. Okay. All right. So the first question that you need to ask yourself, and if somebody, anybody in the chat, if you could just type these questions into the chat for me, anybody, even if it's just you reminding yourself, but when I read it, you just go ahead and type it in for me and let it go. All right. So number 1, why does your brand exist? Why does your brand exist? Before you figure out your brand, you need to understand your brand's purpose, right? Like logos and all that other stuff can come later. Like why does your brand exist, right? Like our brand exists to help families become and stay self-employed, right? And that's not exactly picking colors. That's not exactly picking fonts. That's not exactly, but these are the deep questions like your brand, like why does it exist? And that's going to determine how your brand looks. I did a one-on-one coaching call last night with someone and we were talking about their brand and they didn't want to be the front of their brand. That really, the brand didn't exist. Like our brand exists because we want to lead people down the path. We want to be the guide, lead people to the promised land, right? So like, we do put ourselves that by saying that we want to lead that, it puts us in the front of the brand. Our face is now on the front of the brand. Shane and Jocelyn's signature is on the podcast art. Like that's going to determine how the brand looks publicly later, right? Like that's the purpose for us to lead you, right? Her brand, she wanted the product to lead, right? My product is going to be the center of this person's home. It was a physical product. And when it arrived and it got into that person's home, it became the feature. It was the brand, right? Like think about Q-tips. Everybody's used a Q-tip. Everybody's seen a Q-tip. Q-tip is a super brand. It's a brand that was so powerful that anyone who makes knockoff Q-tips, you still call them Q-tips. You don't call them cotton swabs. You call them Q-tips. But we don't know the name of the person that invented the Q-tip. You might, if you do, go on Jeopardy, but there's no reason to put it here, right? But like you've got to decide, why is this brand? What is the purpose of this brand? And once you know that, it's really going to like crystallize the decisions you make, not only in like your colors and your logos and all the other things that you've got to decide about your branding, the feel of your website, the fonts that you use, right? Like one of our one of the things that we really strive for is down home clarity. Like don't beat around the bush, don't sugarcoat it, be plain spoken, come right at me and tell me how it is. That's a really important part of our brand, right? Because why do we exist? To get you from A to B as fast as you're capable of moving from A to B. So I got to be as clear as possible with the directions. That's why our font is just an open sans, really linear font. It's just really clear, really crystal. Some people have a different font. They might have a cursive font. They might have a slanted or a more rich font or something like that. But ours is really plain, really simple. And that these decisions you make, if you can say to yourself, why does my brand exist? What is the purpose of the brand? You'll be able to make very quick decisions on any of your branding issues later. Okay. So that's the first question, is why does my brand exist? Okay. All right. Second question that you have to ask yourself when you're going into your branding, and you're going to notice I'm not going to say logos until like the end. Like some of you are like, ooh, I got to work on branding, make a logo and spend 7 months on it instead of making a product. But that's not how it works. Okay. All right. Number 2 is, who are you? Who are you? You have to answer that question. It's going to determine everything else that you decide later about your brand. It's going to design your art direction. It's going to design the look and feel of your website. Like, who are you? Right. So most of you could probably describe me and Jocelyn. Like, go in the chat real quick as I talk through this, and I'll do it. Tell me how do you think about our brand? If you were asked the question, who is Shane and Jocelyn? How would you describe us? Go ahead, tell me. I want to see what you guys say about this before I say what our brand is supposed to be. All right. So who is Shane and Jocelyn? Who are we? Like, describe us, describe our feel, describe how you think about us, like describe us to somebody else. Like, just give me a couple comments in the chat. But you've got to answer that question, who am I? Am I really super professional? Well, that's going to determine how your website looks. Am I really, super casual? Well, that's going to determine how your website looks, right? Am I really, really, boisterous and out front? That's going to determine what your logo looks like. Or am I really reserved and calm, and I'm really turning, the mirror back on my people? That's going to determine what everything in your brand looks like. So you got to understand your identity. Okay. So Shay says, down to earth, family, Christian oriented people. Yep. Family oriented entrepreneurs, down to earth, fun to listen to, real honest people. Good. People who dare to dream and show to others what's possible. Those are all things that 100% we would use to describe our brand. And how do we do that? Like, for example, when we decided, for example, we are going to be focused, family first entrepreneurs. I need to trademark that. Family first entrepreneurs. I use that term all the time. Family focused entrepreneurs. Use that term all the time, right? When we decided that we were going to be family focused entrepreneurs and not hustler entrepreneurs working 70 hours a week, and not millennial nomads flying around the world, baby, getting our $6 a day in Thailand. When we decided not to be, and I say that sarcastically, not to judge them, but that's not us. That's not our brand. That's not who we are. You can't be everything to everybody. You got to be something to somebody. And who you are is what you will be to those people. So that's what actually made us decide to do our podcast together. I do talk a lot more on the podcast. I'm much more of the overt, extroverted person that's really out front talking. I do most of our trainings and things like that. Jocelyn's much more, back end and things like that. And we've designed, the brand to accommodate us both. But when we said, who are we? We're a couple, we're a family, we're united, we're doing this together. Jocelyn came out from behind the scenes and onto the mic, and now we do everything together. And it created a new dynamic that you really can't get anywhere else in the online business space. You just can't find. There's not many couples doing what we do, right? At least not doing it as good as we do it, right? All right. So but by making that decision early on that our brand would be so family focused that our family had to be up front, it made decisions easy. Like one of the decisions that we make in our art direction and our whatever you want to call it, canvassing of our website. Okay. If you go to our website, you'll notice almost every single picture and every single blog post was probably taken with an iPhone, right? Like when we have a blog post, I get something off my phone. That's the picture that I use. I don't go get stock photo on everything. Maybe 5% of our entire website has stock photo on it. No, we said family focused brand. When we ask our podcast guests, who we help on air come onto the show, a lot of people send us a headshot because they don't want to put their family out there, but we ask for a family photo. And most of the photos on our podcast guests are 100% pictures of their family. If we're going to be a family focused brand, if that's who we are, then every picture on our site must reflect that. So it determines what you do in the future when you know who you are, when you know your identity, when we know we're a couple doing a podcast together, then when we have a picture of us, it has to be on there. Another thing that we do, no matter who creates content, 90% of the time we sign it Shane and Jocelyn. So if I write an email, we Shane and Jocelyn. If Jocelyn writes a blog post, Shane and Jocelyn. Like, we just determined that, like, this is a family focused brand led by a couple. So all of our marketing, or at least 90% of it, must say Shane and Jocelyn, must have a picture of Shane and Jocelyn or the kids, and it must be that way. So when we're branding something, if we know why we exist and we know who we are, we can now easily make decisions going forward. We never have to get stuck on, what color should I use? I wonder if this picture looks good on this book. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Like, you don't have to get caught up in the minutia of weak decisions when you have strong decisions that you really need to make. Like, how am I going to sell my product? What's the price point going to be? Like, those are big decisions. These branding decisions are easy once you know why you exist and who you are. Okay. All right. So the next one, I guess this is number 3, is how are you different? How are you different? Okay. You have to answer that question, because it's easy to look down after saying, why does our brand exist and what is our identity? Who are we? It's easy to say, man, we kind of look like everybody else, you know? So how are we going to be different? You got to know that immediately in your brand. You have to, okay? So there's 2 tips that I've got here for making yourself different, because everybody's like, you know, I'm not saying different like our customer service is going to be better than everyone. We will have the most world-class customer service ever, and that's what will differentiate us. That ain't going to differentiate you from nothing. That ain't no different than one road with a yellow line down the middle of it and then another road with a yellow line down the middle of it. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter. Like, oh great, neither one of us have potholes, right? That's not a differentiator, okay? Differentiator comes back to like a perceived difference from the outside looking in that someone clearly could look at you and choose and pick out and say. So what I tell everybody when you're picking out your differentiator is look at your weaknesses. That's probably what's going to make you different, right? Look at your perceived weaknesses, the things in your mind that hold you back. If you can embrace those, that's probably the exact thing, that quirk, that little difference that's going to make your brand different from all the other brands and make you stand out, okay? So our biggest differentiator is our accent. I mean, we knew going in, we had this talk. We said, like, look, we sound a lot different than anyone else who's out there podcasting. We just do. We're from Southeast Kentucky and Western Kentucky. No matter how plain we speak, we're still going to sound like we're speaking another language. I mean, it's just different, right? We're going to say things like bug in my crawl. You know what I'm saying? like we're going to say strange colloquialisms that just nobody even knows what we're talking about. And we had a discussion at the beginning, like, how are we going to overcome this? And we were like, well, wait a minute. Why don't we just embrace it? You know, let's just say it in our song. We're a couple from Kentucky. Boom. You like that? We talk different than you. We think different than you. We act different than you. We say different from you. We're not an entrepreneur from California. We're not the entrepreneur with the snazzy skinny jeans and a button-up shirt in New York City. No, we are from Kentucky. And we are embracing that. This perceived weakness, right? We had to come up with ways to overcome it. Like at the beginning of webinars, when we do stuff to cold traffic, we always say, don't confuse dialect with intellect, because if you do, you're going to miss the opportunity of a lifetime, right? So we just embrace our weakness and we turned it into a strength, and it became probably one of the single biggest differentiators between us and every other podcast. So you embrace something you perceive as a weakness, but it's really a strength. You can think about that. What makes you unique, even if you don't like it? Because guess what? There are other people out there that are just like you. You just feel alone. You're not really alone. Like there are 60, 70 million people living in the South. Well, there's our audience, right? Texas is like our biggest state. I wonder why? Because we say y'all and so do they. You see what I'm saying? So like you have to embrace something that you think is a weakness. How are you different? Okay. And then you have to do something overtly different. If you'll actually go to iTunes and find, search for Flip Lifestyle, click Flip Lifestyle, and you'll see like related podcasts and all that stuff. You'll notice something really different from our podcast. We're upside down. I mean, yeah, our brand's Flip Lifestyle, but I remember making our podcast art, which I took with a 2-megapixel camera in my backyard at my old house, and it's been our podcast, and we made it in Canva. It's never not been our podcast art. I'm not paying nobody to do that, right? But like we're upside down, and we did that because we were like, okay, that'll look different. right? That'll look totally different. It'll just be like, oh, that guy's right side up. Oh, that girl's right side up. Why are these two people upside down, right? So anything you can do to kind of stand out and make yourself different from a branding standpoint is a really, really good thing. Okay. All right. Another thing that we do to make ourselves different is we kind of set parameters in our brand that anything we do on our website, somebody would have to be able to DIY it. Okay. That's something that's different from our brand, because a lot of brands are like, yo, hire a web developer. And we're big about hiring people, but we made a decision early on. If a tool that we used was too complicated, that we couldn't figure it out ourselves, we won't do it, because our brand is different. Our brand is to help beginners and intermediates and people who've making some money grow into a substantial income. Like, so we're not dealing with these, $80,000 people that are, trying to go to $10 million. That's not our mission, right? So we had to kind of say, we're going to be different in this regard. We're not just going to teach tools because tools cost money. We got to be able to teach people how to DIY this thing. And that means we've got to DIY some things, right? We still hire people. We still do use tools, but I always run it through the filter of, can I do that? Because if I could do that, I'm pretty sure anybody in our community could do that. Okay. All right. So let's see. That's 1, 2, 3. Hold on. I got my thing out of order here. 0, 1, 2, 3. All right. All right. So we've got, why does your brand exist? Right? Your identity. Who are you? How are you different? And the next is, where do you fit in the market? Where do you fit in the market? You got to answer that in your branding. Notice I've still not made a logo. All I've made is a podcast art, right? We're not getting into this. Branding is not just your colors and your fonts. I'm going to say it over and over and over again until you get it through your heads. It's not what it's all about. Okay. It's about identity. It's about differentiation, and it's about where you fit in the market. You got to decide this before you go out there and start doing things. If you make your brand a mass market DIY type brand, but your stuff is so $1 million polished and you're wearing your Armani suit and all your pictures, you are going to have disconnect in your branding from your market. At the same time, if you're going after the top 10%, you're selling $100,000 product and you're going after millionaires, and you look like a hobo in your marketing, there's going to be a disconnect. So you have to know where your brand fits in the marketplace. Okay. So Jocelyn and I consider our brand a grassroots brand. We consider it a grassroots brand. It's we're neighborly, press the flesh. We're going to give you as much opportunity to have access to us as possible. Almost a cult following kind of brand, right? Like, that's what it is. Just a grassroots down home brand. It's why I do all my videos in t-shirts. I've got a closet here in my office that has like 15 good old boy t-shirts in it. They say stuff on them. And, I don't ever almost wear a polo shirt in anything I do. I wear a hat a lot of the times because my hair's messed up. Right. I'm coming off the gym. Like, this is how I am. I mean, our brand is like this. We're casual, we're relaxed, and that's where we fit in, this grassroots level. Other people don't want to do that. They want professional leadership. And, they fit in at that other tier. Right. So you have to understand, before you decide on a single thing, where do you fit in the marketplace? What kind of brand are you? And what kind of brand are you going to become? Where do you fit in with all of that? Like, who would you be sitting with at the lunch table if it was the high school of your entrepreneurs in your space? Right? Like, embrace it and embrace that place. Like, I was in I better not mention names here. I better not say where I was. I was in a couple of days ago, I was in an extremely important online entrepreneur's office, and I was getting a tour from basically one of his right-hand people. Right. And so anyway, he was very polished. It was a casual day at work. Almost nobody was in the office. Boss wasn't even there. And man, he had on the $500 jeans, the button. It looked like he was about to go on camera right then. I swear somebody had just powdered his makeup, right? Like, but he wasn't. He was just, casual day at the office. That's what he looked like. But you could tell that was where he fit in. That was his space. Now, here was I, this crazy dude from Kentucky, wearing a t-shirt, and I had on a pair of shorts I got from Walmart and flip-flops. And I was in this multi-million-dollar office. It's hilarious, but I don't care. I am who I am. But like, we just both were, but the point was, we had a good time. We were talking, shared some stories, and we just were both very comfortable with where we fit in. right? I mean, that's where we were. I was comfortable. He was comfortable. We were laughing, knocking jokes, talking about the kids. He just was where he was in his lane and I was in mine, and they just happened to be running parallel that day, right? So know where you fit in and embrace it and be proud of it and never care what everybody else does. If you want to be elite and dress up every day and wear your uniform and you want to do that, embrace it and know it and draw those people to you, right? Make branding decisions that reflect that. Pick pictures that you're like that, right? Even in the best pictures we ever took, right? In our last photo shoot or whatever, in our first photo shoot we ever did, that we actually did photo shoot, I was wearing shorts. And in our last photo shoot, I was wearing a long sleeve t-shirt because that's me, man. So you got to embrace it. All of your stuff has to reflect that. It's got to look the part. Okay. All right. So so we've got, why does your brand exist? Who are you? How are you different? Where do you fit in? Okay. The next thing you have to decide is where you show up in people's lives. This is a huge thing in your branding because it's going to zero in your focus. The most place that we show up in people's lives is in their ears, right? That's where we show up, right? So I don't put as much effort into the visual presentation sometime of all of our stuff, like our website, even in the membership. It's very simple. Got some forums, got some chat rooms. But I know where I show up in people's lives. So I am concerned about audio quality. I always pay attention to that in my branding. I want our podcast to sound good. I want our videos to sound good. I don't even really care if my videos are fuzzy or have good lighting, because most of you probably are not even watching the screen right now. You're just doing something else and you're listening, correct? So like knowing where we show up in our lives is going to decide how we communicate and how much effort in our branding that we need to put into our media. Okay. So I spent a lot of time thinking about our theme music, thinking about the way things are going to be cut. Like I'm much more concerned with our audio branding than I am with our video branding, because I don't have to worry about it. So where or when do you show up in people's lives? Another thing that we do strategically in our branding is we email at weird times. Like some of you will notice that you'll get emails from us at like 6 p.m. or 9 p.m. And, you know, all the experts say, get in there at 6 a.m. and get there before everybody in the inbox, you know, when they're checking their thing at work, right? Like, but that's not what we want to be in people's personal lives. Like, that's where I want to show up. I want you to be at the store at, you know, the grocery store, and you look down and an email shows up. I want you to be at home, sitting there, chilling out, surfing on Facebook, and get an email from me. Like, I want us to be in that family setting. So I actually strategically think about when to launch blog posts, when to communicate with people, when to send things out. Okay. So when are you going to show up in people's lives? It's another reason our podcast comes out on Tuesday, just from a branding perspective, is I don't want to be in your face on Monday. You got to go to work on Monday. You got stuff to do on Monday. There's 100,000 people trying to email you on Monday that are not even trying to sell anything. It's just all your work stuff. So like, get that over with. Let's get into the week, and I'll jump in there with you on Tuesday, and we'll ride out hump day together. Okay. All right. So that's the fifth thing. We got, why does your brand exist? Who are you? How are you different? Where do you fit in? When do you show up in people's lives? Okay. And once you've answered all of those questions and you understand why your brand exists, you understand who you are and the identity you're presenting to the world, you understand how you're different, how you're going to differentiate yourself. You understand where you fit in and when you show up. Once you've actually answered all those questions, now you get to do the fun stuff that we consider branding. Okay. What does all that look like? That's the final question you ask yourself when you're going through your branding process. What does all that look like? And this should be the easiest question to answer, because all the hard stuff is done, right? This is where you build the personality of your brand, right? This is where you pick your color palette, right? This is where you pick your action colors. Like, we have 4 main colors in our brand. We have, we call it flip-flop style blue, FL green. We have the teal color, and we have orange. Orange is our action color, right? So from a branding perspective, almost every time you see anything on our website, if you go to fliplifestyle.com, all the buttons are orange, all the links are orange. That's our action color, and all the other colors in our color palette, which Jocelyn picked. I don't remember where she got those, but it's in one of the trainings in the Flip Your Life community. Like, our brands embrace that. And we picked soft, warm colors, right? Like family colors, not like sharp business blues like IBM or something like that. That's really like bold and standing in your face. Like, we picked really like, you know, like comfortable tones to our colors because we want it to feel like you walked into a living room or you walked into a, you know, someone's bedroom or a safe space. Like, oh, look at that. There's some art on the wall that's green and the, you know, maybe the bedspread's blue or something. I don't know, whatever. But like, it's just a really soft, clean, you know, easy colors. Like they feel relaxed. You know what I'm saying? But all these colors were really super easy to pick out. All of these fonts were really easy to pick out. The way we do our imagery on our website, the personality. Like if you'll notice, like we share a lot of stuff with Barnwood on the back of it. When I do a quote card, I'll use Barnwood in almost everything I do. Like go to fliplifestyle.com/Facebook. That'll take you to our Facebook page and go look at the Memorial Day thing I put up just the other day. For the Memorial Day holiday, I used Barnwood, said Memorial Day on it. You know, if you went to Flip Your Life Live last year, we had a massive set built out of Barnwood, out of like real reclaimed Barnwood. Right? And all my PowerPoints had Barnwood. That's just to capture that country feel. Like we know that's our personality, so we might as well embrace it and make everything look at it that way, right? It's why I chose. I'm decorating my office. I'm going very slowly, but like it's why I picked like this big Kentucky thing. Like if you see me on a YouTube video, I don't have to tell you I'm from Kentucky. I'm probably wearing a Kentucky hat or this giant Kentucky thing is behind me and it's made out of old reclaimed pallet wood. So like, you know, the whole background back here is going to be something like that. I'm going to put like a corner shelf over here and it's all going to be the same thing. But I want you to see our brand visually that will embrace who we are, that will show you why we exist, that shows you where we fit in, right? Man, here's a guy standing in front of a Kentucky sign with a t-shirt on. Well, I'm from Alabama and I'm trying to start an online business. This sounds good, right? Or, man, I'm in California and I'm sick of all these people that are arrogant and ego driven and, you know, hustlers and 80 hours a week. Well, this guy's a family guy from Kentucky. I relate to that. So you just embrace that and you be genuine and you take all the stuff that is you and you let that pour into your brand. But don't start with a logo. Don't start with colors and websites and fonts because you think they're pretty. Right? Everything on your site is going to say something about you, from the colors that you use, from the pictures that you use, from the fonts that you use, from when you show up in people's inboxes, the things that make you different. Like all that has to be figured out in succession, in order, if you're going to have a brand that truly reflects what you are. Like if the first question is, why does your brand exist? And the answer is to send dog treats to our owners so that their dogs have healthy dog treats. I'm just making something up here. Like that's going to impact everything going forward. Like, who are you? Well, we're a dog food company, right? Like that's your identity. Like every question beyond that stems from the one before it. So if you do these out of order, or if you start with colors and font, that's why people always are redoing their websites. I love it when someone comes in to the community. Now, who's redone their website because you hated the first one? Tell me that. I guarantee you someone in this chat room right now has redone their website more than once because they hated the way it looked. And the reason you hated the way your brand looked is because you didn't think about your branding questions in the right order. You just started making stuff, which is good. We take action, we do all that, but we want you to build a brand correctly. We want you to build a brand in the right way. We want everything to look the way it's supposed to look. And if you do it in this order, it will. Okay. All right. So if you have any questions, I'm going to do a quick review. If you have any questions about branding in particular, or anything else that we've covered so far in our live sessions for attendees to Flip Your Life Live, then let me know that. But I'm going to go ahead and get you a quick review if you want to write these down in order the way you should do them. So if you have any questions, post them now. If there are no questions, then we are getting near the end of this training session. I'll give you your homework. Okay. All right. So branding. Okay. One, you have to answer the question, why does your brand exist? That's going to guide every question we ask going forward. Okay. Why does your brand exist? This isn't exactly the problem that you solve. It's more the result that you're after. Does that make sense? So, you know, in the avatar and offer trainings, we always look at, okay, what's the problem? How are we solving it? What's the product look like? This is deeper than that. This is more geared toward the result, not the problem. Why does your brand exist? Why does our brand exist? To help families become and stay self-employed, which will give them total control of their life. That's the result, right? That's a result-driven answer for number one. Why does your brand exist? Two, who are you? That is a question of identity. Okay, who are you? All right. Number three, how are you different? Embrace your weaknesses. Find something that you think is a weakness and realize that hundreds of thousands of people will probably relate to you in that way. Embrace something like that, and then figure out ways to be different. Okay, that's number 3. Number 4, where do you fit in the market? Where do you fit in? Where do you fit in the market? Okay, number 4. And number 5, when do you show up in people's lives? That's going to determine a lot of stuff about scheduling, which will affect branding. And then finally, number 6, what does all that look like? This is where you get into the fun stuff. This is where you make logos. This is where you pick fonts. This is where you choose imagery. This is where you let the colors and the personality of you and your brand shine through. This is the part where people actually get to interact with you, your website, and your brand. Okay. All right. Great. If you follow those steps in order and you wrestle with those questions before you start your branding or before your next rebrand, which for some of you may be very soon this week, then you're going to be able to answer a lot of those questions better. You're going to be able to get a lot more done, and you are going to be able to have a better, more coherent brand. Your decision making is going to be easier. You're not going to have to wrestle with it and think about it. You'll stop worrying about what your website looks like because you know it looks right. You know what I'm saying? And you'll be better off for it. Okay. All right. So I'm looking in here, just scanning back. I don't think there were many questions. So we're probably going to just go ahead and wrap this up. I want you to go ahead. Next couple weeks is watching the platform course inside of the Flip Your Life community, like how to build your platform. Next week, I think we're talking about, let's see, as we march through the Flip Your Life blueprint, we're going to actually talk about your website. That one will be a lot more technical. I'll take you through some key components of your website and make sure that all your components are looking good and everything on your website is doing what it's supposed to do. And you've got all the main parts of your website humming like an engine. And then we'll talk about your social media in a couple weeks for that. Okay. All right. But this week, I want you to wrestle with those questions. I want you to think about all of those branding issues. And I want you to get after it and make your brand look better. If you have not ever done this and you're just getting ready to build your website, you can answer these questions this week. If you have a website already, but you know it's not where it's supposed to be, I want you to go through these questions and make some changes this week and make your brand better. Okay. Jennifer Dixon says, so for branding, I have a quick question. So I'm going to put go ahead. And once I see that in the chat, we will answer that question. Tanya says, I just got here. Sorry, Tanya. The replay will play out as soon as this, so you can just turn around and hit replay. Okay. All right. So Jennifer said she had a question, but I don't see it pop. Okay, here we go. I have a brick and mortar, as you know, and I'm trying to build the online. So far, everything is tied together. However, what happens if I want to sell the brick and mortar? You will have to take it all apart. At one point, we had all of our businesses on one Infusionsoft account. That was stupid. We had to buy a separate Infusionsoft account when we sold elementarylibrarian.com, and because they want everything separate. So, you know, if you want to sell the brick and mortar later, it might be good to have maybe just isolate it to a page on your site or a section of your site, and then you could just kind of have someone copy and paste it over. But there will the best way to do that is let your brick and mortar live all in one place. So it could live in a category. Like you could have your category on your website and put every post, every page, anything having to do with that site under that category. And that way you can at least just hire a developer and say, take all that stuff off, build a new website, and leave all the digital stuff here. Okay. Or when you leave it, you know, you could just say, I'm not selling the website. You're going to have to start a new website or something. I don't know. But you are going to have to, but now branding, keep it the same. Yeah. You want the branding. We don't play the exit game, even though we have exited from a business. Don't play the exit game. Build a business that you love, that you want, that's interconnected, that looks the way you want it, that is your personality, so everyone knows who you are. And if you do sell it someday, you can deal with it then, right? You don't know if you're going to sell it. You don't know if anybody will buy it. You know what I'm saying? So like, why not just embrace it and love it? And, you know, it's like a kid. You raise it, it's there, it lives with you, and then it just leaves, right? So, you know, there's still some work to do when it leaves. You got to move them out. You know what I'm saying? But it's the same thing. Okay. All right. I think that's all the questions that we have for this session. Awesome stuff. We are getting dangerously close to June. It's tomorrow. And what do we have? I think we've only got like, let's see, that'd be 12, 13. We got 15 weeks until Flip Your Life Live. That's awesome. So we're getting close to the end of the Flip Your Life Blueprint. Over the next few weeks, we'll knock that out. And then let's see, I think let's see, 1, 2, 3. How far are we from icebreakers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're 5 weeks. In 5 weeks, we're going to start some icebreaker sessions where we will start introducing you guys to each other. We will start getting to know you a little bit better so that we all are very comfortable and have friends that we can hang out with when we get to Lexington, Kentucky in September. So let me see. I'm probably going to look at the calendar here. Let me make sure I've already got this scheduled. I do apologize again for this week for not being here on Monday, but I was so sick. I had some kind of food poisoning or something, and I had to get up the next day and drive to Nashville. It was brutal. So let's see. I'm going to look at Monday. Let's see. Monday, Jocelyn is in a meeting, but we have Vacation Bible School at night. So we will definitely meet Monday at 12 o'clock. I'm going to put it on here right now. FYL live training. All right. Because there is no way that I will be able to do that in the evenings because we have Bible school, and Bible school is crazy. It's like 4 hours a day and it wears you out, but we do it every year. So, all right, guys, have a great day. Work on your brand this week. Go in the Flip Your Life community and watch the platform training. And we will see you right back here on session 8, where we're going to talk a little bit about websites and how to take some of this branding stuff you're going to figure out this weekend and apply it in your website, in your media, in everything that you do, even your emails and all that good stuff. Okay. All right, guys, have a great weekend. Have a great day. Till we meet again, do whatever it takes. Live your life. See you then.